Hello, everyone. My name is Flavius Sterciuc, and I'm the host of Pursuit of Freedom. We thank you for tuning in and watching and listening. Today, we have the honor and privilege of speaking with Cornel Petrisor, and we're excited to hear his story. So, Cornel is a Christian, a husband, a father of 3 boys, and recently became a grandpa. He is a developer in commercial and residential real estate, and he is the president of the Alliance of Unified Romanians in the U.S., and he is a presbyter at his local church. Cornel, we know you are a very busy man, so we just want to say thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for opening up your home. We really appreciate it, and we're so excited to hear your story, and we know that many, many people will be impacted by this. So thank you. Thank you.
Flavius, I want to say thank you for your time, and also thank you for doing this. I'm hoping that what we're doing today is to share my story, also to share my story for the younger generation, to see how people like myself and people like your parents as well came in this country and what we've been through in order to provide or give a better life to our kids.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be here.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Shall we dive in?
Yes, we should.
Okay. Well, I always like to start at the beginning. What is your first memory of Romania from when you were a child? When you think of Romania in your earliest years, what's the first thing that comes to you?
That's a very good question. As I sit here and think back, probably I remember playing with my brothers. I come from a large family of Christians, first of all, with 9 kids. I was the youngest boy, number 7 on the line of my brothers and sisters. I'm thinking of really fun times that we had as I grew up. And of course, maybe some of not so fun times, but first of all, I want to say, I think about my family, my mom, my dad, my brothers and sisters, and the friends that we had, that we hang out and play, and the places that I come from, beautiful places, and something that will probably stay with me for the rest of my life, those memories.
That's awesome. Can you tell us about your childhood? What was that like? What city were you from? And tell us what it was like kind of growing up in those times in Romania.
I was born in the city of Someș-Ureche. It's very close to Cluj-Napoca, somewhere around 19 kilometers. It's a place somewhere in the mountains, beautiful when it comes to scenery. We had water, we have mountains, we have a lot of forest. Part of also, my father was preparing, or he was working at the forest industry, preparing construction materials for homes. As I grew up, I remember we had to do a lot of chores around the house. That's something that sometime I talk to my kids about, tell them how many chores we had to do. And I don't think I should say that, but we worked quite a bit.
Yeah.
You know, we had to do our part. Doesn't matter. I remember I was maybe 7, 8, 9 years old, and I had my own things that I had to do every single day. So, yes, it was a fun life in a way, but also it was hard in another way. we all, belonged to a local church. My father was in charge of the church for several years. Before him was my grandpa. So there is a history, especially with the church in Someșurece. I don't know if I could go into details on that. Should I do that?
Yeah, if you'd like.
Before the Second War, there was no Christian church in the village. So after the Second War, my grandpa became a Christian. So he built a church on his own land that he gave to people, for the people from my village. And my father enlarged the church because the church became small on his own land. And today we have a big church in the village it was built with my help, of course, on my own land.
Wow.
So we have 3 generations of Christians that we provide the church for the village.
That's a beautiful legacy.
Yes.
What was everyday life like for you? Maybe now we'll go into your teenage years. What was everyday life like especially in those communist times? Did you feel the oppression? Did you feel especially as a Christian, there was more persecution for you and your family? Did you feel that in your everyday life? From going to school, going to the store to buy stuff. Was it constantly there, or were you a little younger so you didn't feel it as much?
I think I should say that from the young age we felt it. We felt it first of all among the other kids. As I went to play with them, as I went to school, you felt that being a Christian, you were persecuted in a way or another. You were called names, or you were looked down on. And it did happen from my very early age. That's something that I remember that. And of course, as I grew up, and I went for the first 8 up to the 8th grade. I went to school in the village. There were a lot of kids. We were name called, or should I say, there was always something to look down on us based on our religion. The village had a fair amount of Christians, but most of the people from the village, they were Orthodox. So they were definitely not a Christians, Pentecostals, the way we were.
I understand.
So we were definitely persecuted when it comes to that. I remember the teachers in the school. I'm going to give you a very short example. On the 8th grade, one of the teachers in the class said that every student should pull out a piece of paper and should write down where do they want to go, what will be the next phase of schooling that they want to go to. And myself, I wrote down a very, well-known school that I want to go to, and a school that's very hard to get in. And the teacher was like, "You Christian, you're never going to get there." So it's interesting that I believe when I signed up for the school in Romania, after you finish the 8th grade, in order to go to the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, to finish high school, there is a big test. Back then, that's how it was. And I remember there were like 500 something, almost 600 students signed up.
Wow.
And there were only 118 seats available. I got in, and I got in pretty well in the front of the list, not on the bottom of the list.
That's awesome.
Not that I was the smartest kid in the school, because also one thing that I can mention is school for my parents was not a priority. We had to do our chores. We had to do the work on the farm, on the land, and whatever else was needed to be done around the house. School was always a secondary. I remember as I grew up, and I tell that to my kids, I was crying to let me go to school.
Wow.
Because that's how it was.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm not blaming my parents, but that's how life was back then. So, as I said, I was really wanted to go to school. I wanted to learn. I wanted to find out more. I mean, just know more. I mean, you know, broaden my knowledge much as I could. So, anyway, I got into the Liceu Economic at that time. That's the name of it, and
that would be economic high school.
Economic high school.
Yeah.
That has to do with one thing that I was good at as I was from the young age, math. I just had that gift. You know, I was just good at it. So for me to study that school, it was probably a good fit. You know, so I was fitting in very well, and I liked it. I mean, the truth is, I liked it. So,
how did your parents survive during those times with that many kids living in a small village? How did they provide enough food and clothing for you? And I imagine during those communist times there were tough times. I know from my own parents' stories of. So, how did your parents make it through that?
So yes, we had a big family, and my father was a very hardworking man. He worked very hard. He was involved in the church, as I mentioned earlier. He was preparing, especially, you know, construction materials for homes, especially in the wood department. So they had a hard time. I mean, I remember my mom. I definitely want to mention something here. Me being the youngest boy in the family, I had a very good relationship with my mom. My mom was my best friend. Yeah, we were very close. My mom, she was there to basically, you know, sometime I was a picky eater, and she was always there to make sure that I get fed, make sure that I get something that I liked. So for some reason, we built a relationship that even later on, and as we're gonna go on with my story, I'm gonna mention maybe a few times that we had a special relationship. I mean, she was the person that I could go to and tell her anything in my life. I mean, even when I like somebody, like a girl or whatever happened in my life, I mean, my mom, she was up to date with everything. So, and she was a very hard worker. I mean, she was up the first in the family, and she went to bed the last one in the family. Don't forget, living in the village, it's, you know, we had no utilities. For example, all the fire in the house, all the heat was made with the wood stove. All the cooking was a wood stove. So I remember my mom wake up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning and make fire in the house so she can warm up the house. And then after that, cook on the wood stove. So she was, honestly, it's hard to compare the level of sacrifice that people made back those days compared to today.
Yeah.
We are so spoiled today. We have all the utilities in the house. It's so easy. You push a button and the fire is on. You know, you push a button and the hot water comes in. So it's totally different.
Yeah.
You know.
Did you have running water in the house, or did you have a toilet, or?
We didn't have running water in the house, and we didn't have a toilet.
So you had an outhouse or something?
Outhouse, yes.
Wow.
And I remember if you want to take a bath, you have to, you know, boil water, and all the old stuff. It's old school stuff. A lot of people those days, they probably only heard about those in the books or maybe saw a movie, but nothing like it is today.
Wow. Well, after high school, what did you do next? Did you get a job? What was work life like during those times? Or did you, I know also back then it was a requirement to go to the Army as well. So what was your next phase after high school?
So after I went into economics high school, let's say, I did 2 years. But during this time, because don't forget, I came from a family that it didn't have a lot of financial possibility, so I had to work. As I went to this school, I also took a part-time job. I worked as a busboy. Then later on, I worked as a waiter. But soon after, I was called to go to Army. I went to the Army, and going to the Army, I went to there was 60 guys like myself. This was in Bucharest. And we had a test. This was all waiters. That's what I was doing at the time. And to my surprise, I took first place out of those 60 guys. And I ended up working on the Minister of Defense. That's where I serve the Minister of Defense, of course, a lot of generals. And I end up serving even the President of Romania.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was there for almost 2 years, basically 20 months. Back then, the time of Army was 18 months, I believe. No, 16 to 18. And I ended up doing a little bit more because they extended it. So,
and was it still a requirement even if you went to school, or did they give anyone exemptions of any kind?
So basically, the reason I'm bringing this up is that because I really started working, they called me to Army. So a lot of people, they went to the university, they end up doing only half of that time. So I believe it was only 9 months instead of 18 months, was only 9 months. But myself, because I started school, I started to work. They took me, and I did a full term.
Mm-hmm.
So let's not forget that after we finished this, I'm going to tell you. Then I went back to school after I finished Army. I went back to the same school to finish my high school.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So I did that. I came back home. I signed up for school to finish my high school, and I started working as a waiter again. So after a short period of time, after I went to, I came from home from Army. One thing that I have to mention here is, back then it was a big thing going on in the Christian community. A lot of people sign up to leave the country due to the fact that we were oppressed. We were persecuted. Mm-hmm. So they were looking for the freedom as a Christian, also as a freedom as a person, to be able to. Back then, life was totally different. Mm-hmm. You couldn't talk. You couldn't say what you think. You couldn't do what you want. There were so many obstructions or so many rules that we had to go through. As a Christian, even a place of work, you were persecuted. Mm. You couldn't.
How did they know?
You couldn't express your beliefs. Maybe the way we talked. For example, not too long ago, somebody told me, "You're a Christian." I said, "How do you know?" And they said, "The way you talk." So it's interesting. We have maybe a specific way, or we bring God in our speech that more often, or in a certain way that people that don't have a relationship with God, they don't. And we give ourselves up pretty easy that way. Growing up, in our family, we talked about a lot about freedom. We talked about what it means to be free, and also what it means to be able to express yourself. My mom and I, we had a lot of discussion on this subject, and it was something that it was in my mind. I remember back then watching a movie was a big deal. We look at especially American movies, how people were free, how they could do whatever they want, how they can go about everyday life the way they like to. We didn't have that. We didn't have those options.
No.
Yeah, we just express yourself. It was not there. I'm gonna give you a small example. Being in the army and working where I was working, I was making a joke one night with one of the personal guard of Nicolae Ceausescu. Back then, this guy pulled out his gun and he put it on my head. He said, "I'm gonna shoot you, and they're gonna give me they're gonna advance me just by doing that." So, believe me, thinking of being free and thinking of escaping Romania, it was very big thing in my head, in my mind.
Wow.
So, a lot of Christians were talking about how can we escape? How can we go to U.S.? U.S. was finally the biggest thing, the biggest destination. Oh, I'm gonna try to escape to go to America. It was a big deal. So,
but you also had to be careful with who you shared that with.
Of course.
And because I've heard stories of people spying, your neighbors spying on you and sharing because they will hopefully get something from the government for themselves. And so you probably had to be mindful of 24/7 about what you were sharing and with who.
Yes, well, again, the persecution that we had as a Christians is everybody was listening, everybody. And if there was something to be gained, they will definitely spill the beans. They will tell. So you don't talk. For example, if you have something in your mind, you don't share it with people unless you really trust the other person. So, yes, I was thinking of escaping. I was thinking of being free, but I wasn't sharing it. Definitely not sharing it. So, but I did know some people from Turda, very close to Cluj as well. Those people, they were Christians and they were visiting my church in my village. And we knew each other a little bit. And after the army, I have to mention that my brother, my oldest brother, Gligor, he applied legally to leave Romania. He was waiting for, I believe, a little bit over 7 years to get the approval. Him, his wife, and his kids. And he ended up leaving. He left 4th of December, 1984. That's when he left Romania, legally, to come to U.S.
With the whole family.
With the whole family. He had 4 kids at that time. So, after he left, the wish for me to leave Romania, it grew a lot. So, that's when I said to myself, I'm gonna figure out a way to leave. I met those guys. I mean, I talked to these guys that I was gonna leave Romania, and them, by knowing that my brother already left, the trust on their end grew quite a bit towards me. And the more we talked, the more my trust towards them grew as well.
Yeah.
So we talked about it, and we put a plan together. I said, let's do it. Myself, I have this thing, as I grew up with 3 other brothers, Gregor was the older than me. He was the first one, and he and I wouldn't have a very close relationship as I grew up. But 2 of my other brothers were very close in age, and we had a very good relationship. Not only that, but myself, being the youngest, I always look up to them, and we fight a lot, just like boys. And I never want to give up. I was always trying to be as good as they are, if not better. Mm-hmm. So I think going up this way, I was building some kind of a special ambition or a drive to don't be on the last place, always be better. So they help, believe it or not, even in life, even up to today, they really did help. Yeah. And I built that, or I gained that by going up with my brothers. Mm-hmm. Because we are playing soccer, we were playing all kinds of games. I never want to be the last one. Mm-hmm. I always want to be better. So it was something that actually affect my life up to, as I said, up to today. So let's go to going back.
Before we dive into that part, at this point in time, had you met your now wife yet, or were you still single at the time? Where were you at there?
My wife and I, we grew up in the same church. We grew up in the same village. Believe it or not, we have the same last name. Almost not half, but I would say 30% of the people in the village, they say they have the same last name as mine. So it's Petrisor. It's a very well-known name, mm-hmm. especially in the village. So is in Cluj as well. It's a common name. Okay. So my wife, she's a few years younger than me. She was the best friend of my younger sister. Mm. I knew her, but we didn't have a relationship. She's 7 years younger than I am. Don't forget, I left my village when I was 14. I went to Liceu, to the high school, and yes, I knew her. Her sister, one of her sister, it was my classmate in the village for the first 8 years grade in the school, in the primary school.
So when did you guys reconnect then?
We'll get to that. It's a nice story. Okay. It's a nice story. We'll get to that. So I was making plans to escape. One of the three guys that we talked about, he went and got a job in the border area zone, because in order to get closer to the border, you have to have a good reason to be there. So one of the 3 other guys got a job on the hydroelectric zone, where it was between Romania and Yugoslavia. I remember this hydroelectric power plant. It was half owned by Romanians and half was owned by Yugoslavia at the time. So he got a job there. So the 2 other guys, being related to him, they was able to get into the border zone. Mm-hmm. By myself, not being related to them or not having a good reason to get there. So I had to come up with a different plan. How do I get into that area? Mm. So I was pretty inventive guy as an early age. So I asked a friend of mine, which he was a doctor at the time, to give me, it's called foyer de drum. In English, it's called travel document. Mm-hmm. And this travel document, it was in white. So basically it was unsigned and unfilled. So I filled it myself, I signed it, and I made myself instructor of dancing in order to go in that area and learn the dances from that area. Oh. Me being from Cluj, so somehow there was programs that were able to do that, and that's what I did. It was pretty clever at the time.
Very creative.
Very creative and clever in order to come up with such a plan. I did that, and I was able to go through all the checkpoints in order to get into the border area between Romania and Yugoslavia. Where this electric plant was, there is a dune. There's a big river. It's the biggest in Europe. And this dune also, it's a moving water. So it's not, it's not standing water.
Yeah. At what point did you decide that, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to make an attempt to escape? And so when did you tell your family, and who did you tell? What were their reactions like? Because it is a life and death situation. It's not a light, oh, I might try this. This is a big deal. So how did those conversations go? Would you share about that?
The wish of escaping were in my mind, I would say, daily. And the person that I would start to sharing those was who else? My mom. As I mentioned earlier, my mom knew basically every thought in my mind, everything that I was thinking, I was sharing with her. My relationship was something that I wish I still have her around even now, but she's not. She left us long time, but it's something that even now, as I go through things in life, I remind myself, I wish my mom was here to talk to her. It was a relationship that's, it doesn't, it happen very often. And not only that, it doesn't, probably a lot of people don't have that relationship with somebody so close all their life. And then also I told my sister, one of my sister, Mariora, I told her about, the plan that I had, that I was thinking of escaping. She find out later on, but my mom find out quite a bit early in my planning that what I was planning to do. My mom, it was a very woman of prayer. She prayed a lot for me. She prayed with me, and she was a person that I'm sure she felt what I felt. And after my brother left, my mom somehow, I think she found it to be more okay with the idea of me leaving. And also, we talked about the risk that it come with it. Because let's not forget, back then, you could have, if they catch you and beat you up, that's easy, and put you in jail. But you could have died as well. And we can talk about that when the time comes as well. I risked my life to become free. So in order to be free, I pay a price.
Yeah. So take us from idea of escaping to actually putting it into action. How did you come up with the plan with your friends? And then would you take us on the journey of actually attempting?
So those three guys and myself, we met a few times. We put together a plan. They knew I have a brother that already left Romania. They didn't know anybody in the US. So back then there was a program that you could escape Romania, but you need to find somebody to basically to back you up, to support you in order to go to US. To sponsor, yes. So basically, of course, I'm jumping from one place to another, but I'm doing that because I want to make sure that people that are listening to this, they understand. There was a path that you have to go through after escaping, after you give yourself up to the authorities, which in whatever country you're going to, and going through the screening process, because you were definitely screened, which took several months. And then after that, if the U.S. Government approves you, if they're okay with you, then they put a stamp on it, they give you the approval, and then you go to U.S. So those 3 other guys, they were teaming up with me based on me having a brother already in the U.S. and knowing that I could be of help to them. Because again, talking about this to other people, it was very dangerous. If they hear, especially secret police, if they hear you talk about this, you definitely go to jail. Mm-hmm. It was a straight guarantee way to jail if somebody tell on you. Wow. If somebody spill the beans. Mm-hmm. So we became friends, and we put together a plan how to do this. That's why Pia, one of the guys that was part of this group, he ended up getting a job close to the border between Romania and Yugoslavia. And him, by working there, it was a good way for us to know the area and to have an idea how to make a plan of escaping. Mm-hmm. So, going back, Pia was there. The 2 other guys, Ion and Cornel, they were related to Pia. And for them to get in the area, it was easy because they were going to visit their brother-in-law. I end up getting there with a bus. It was a bus that we took from, I believe, Timișoara. We took a bus into Moldova Nouă. That's the name of the city where we had to go.
On the border.
On the border zone. I got there somewhere around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Pia was the one that waited for me at the bus station. He took me to his apartment where he was living. The 2 other guys were there waiting for me. And it was definitely a great time to see them. But that's when the whole thing started. So,
because then, by then it's like, okay, this is actually happening now. It's the realization that you're all together and it's go time.
It was a plan that finally it was time to develop. It was a plan that was starting to happen in our mind and also in reality.
Yeah.
So we met at the apartment. I remember we prayed. We went over all the details, what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. Let's not forget this. Myself, I was never in that area before. 2 of the other guys, Ion and Cornel, they never been there either. So the only one that knew the area was Pia, the guy that was working in that area. So, we all depended on his knowledge of the town, which he knew the town. Mm-hmm. He knew the town fairly well because he went there for this reason. So he learned the town. And he learned the rules of the town. Because Moldova now being a border town, it was patrolled by the military vehicles, around
Constantly.
and around. Yeah, after 9 or 10 o'clock at night, they were patrolling the streets. And if they see you on the street, they stop, ask you, they ask you for ID, they were asking what's going on. So it was very dangerous to even being outside because you were harassed by the border patrols. So 10 o'clock comes at night, and we start going towards the water. Dium was the river between, as I said earlier, it was the border between Romania and Yugoslavia. We were start walking. We had a small boat, two persons boat, rubber boat. Mm-hmm. And we had another a tube from a car that, let's not forget, we blew those up with our mouth. We are blowing air into it. So that took a while as well. We had a backpack, some changed clothes, and some food, and we start our journey. Every time we saw a car, a patrol car, we jump into the ditch to make sure they don't see us.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened a few times, so we end up getting to the water. Being there, we prayed. We started filling up with air the small rubber boat that we had, and the intertube. And we went through the water. One of the important things that people have to know is 2 out of the 4 guys, they know how to swim. And the boat was so small. One of the guys was a little bit heavier. He got into the rubber boat, and water was starting to fill in the rubber boat. So I remember with our hands, we were trying to pull the water out. It was very stressful.
By the way, what month was it?
We were in the water on the 20th of May, 1985. That night was the big night when we crossed the Dune and we escaped from Romania. With God's help. That was a special day. That's a day that marked my life, and it will stay with me for the rest of my life.
How long were you guys in the water for?
So before we get to that, I want to say that being in the water, it was very stressful. Let's not forget, the Border Patrol, they will come with the boat, and they will patrol the water. And later on, I found out that if they see you on the water, they will turn the boat, and the propellers will catch you and kill you in the water. We were in the water for 5 hours, a little bit over 5 hours. We start going to the water at midnight, 12 o'clock midnight, and we were on the other side, on the Yugoslavian side, a little bit after 5 o'clock in the morning, 5 a.m. So with God's help, we crossed the Dune, and we end up on the other side. But as I said earlier, the Dune, it had a lot of currents,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a moving water. It probably took us somewhere between 2 to 3 kilometers from where we started. We were very close to the power plant, electro power plant.
Mm-hmm.
So, and back at the power plant, they were making a grid out of metal, because a lot of the guys, they get killed in the water. There were people from the Yugoslavian side. They went there with a hook and pick up the dead bodies and make a grave. We saw such a grave on the Yugoslavian side. There were a lot of crosses without a name on the Yugoslavian side.
And
it was
these are
basically a grave.
And these are all people attempting to escape.
This was all Romanians,
Yeah.
our compatriots
Yeah.
that they were trying to escape, and they pay with their life their wish for freedom. That's why, yes, I was young, and so was the other 3 guys, but we pay a price, pretty steep price,
Mm-hmm.
with the risk of our own life to escape Romania, to be free, and to be where we are today.
Mm-hmm.
So with God's helps, we end up being in Yugoslavia. It's a lot of details, but I'm going to try to go a little bit faster because, I don't want to take too much time.
Yeah.
But we got there around a little bit after 5. We waited until the daybreak comes out. I remember it was around 9 o'clock in the morning, and we were waiting in the woods. Through all our travel time, every time when we travel mostly in the woods because we don't want it to be seen on the street. We were afraid, and we heard stories before that if you go to Yugoslavia, some Romanians will be given return to the country. Some, I don't know how they make the selection, but some of the people that tried to escape, they got caught in Yugoslavia and they were returned to Romania. And of course, once they were returned, they went straight to jail, and beating and all the things that happened. So our plan was to cross all Yugoslavia and go to Rome, to Italy, and give ourselves up to the Romanian embassy in Rome. That was the plan. And I'm going to go through some of the details, and God help us. That's exactly what we did. So we saw a guy working on his farm. I went through him, and I talked to him. In Romania, being in school, I learned Russian. And my Russian was pretty good at the time. I went there and I started speaking Russian with him. Let's not forget that Yugoslavian language, it's a Slavic language. So he had some similarity on it. And we were able to conversate, to have a conversation. And also, the guy was able to understand what I want. Even though he never told me, but I think he knew that we were Romanians and we were trying to escape. He was very nice, a very nice person. And he helped me. He came to the bus station and he bought 4 tickets for us to go to Belgrade. Of course, we paid him for the tickets. He even talked to the bus driver and said that those guys are tourists and they want to go to Belgrade. Nobody bothered us. We had a good time on the bus. We ended up going to Belgrade. Belgrade back then was the capital of Yugoslavia. And from Belgrade, we had another plan to take a train to the closest city border with Italy, which was the city called Ljubljana. This was on the Yugoslavian side. So we went, we bought the tickets, and we took a train, and we went to Ljubljana. Getting closer to Ljubljana, again, was a border town, and the military police, they were checking all the paperwork for people getting closer to the area. This is another event that something that only God protect us.
Hello, everyone. This episode is sponsored by Vital Solutions. Vital Solutions is a Seattle-based nonprofit whose goal is to create hope and empower communities. They do this by focusing on 4 pillars: education through their school, healthcare through their medical clinics, and faith through church planting. They care for the whole person, mind, body, and soul. And lastly, humanitarian work through their efforts in Ukraine and Israel. We are truly honored to have such an organization be one of our sponsors. They're making a difference all over the world, and you can too. If you'd like to get more information about Vital Solutions, you can go to vitalsoul.org, where you can discover more about all 10 countries they serve in, upcoming fundraising events near you, mission trips, and the many ways you can support their work. Thank you for your consideration, and thank you, Vital Solutions, for all you do all over the world. Now, back to today's episode.
Before we dive into this area, at what point did you reach out back to your family in Romania? Had you told them, hey, I made it, I'm in Yugoslavia now?
I did not.
And so by now, how many days has it been since anyone has heard from you?
Our travel time in Yugoslavia, it happened, we were there on the 21st and 22nd. So we were there for 2 days. I did not contact my family. Basically, at that point, we were just keep traveling. We were just moving. We didn't stop. It was getting in touch with our family. It was secondary. At this point, it was for us to get to the U.S. Embassy in Rome to give ourselves up. We didn't have a statue at that time, so we couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
So we went through Ljubljana. We were in train, and the military police, they were checking all the compartments, checking the paperwork. This is something that happened. They were checking the compartment on the left. They skipped my compartment, where we were, and they checked the compartment on the right. So it was God sent. So we end up getting to Ljubljana. Safe, nobody bothered us. Let's not forget that me and my friends, seeing the military police coming, we were thinking, what should we do? Of course, every one of us were praying in our mind, but we were very stressed out that we're going to get caught and we're going to be sent back to Romania. God was with us, and we were able to pass that big test that was upon us to go through. So we ended up in Ljubljana. We went to the train station. From there, we took a taxi. We had some money with us, and we paid the taxi man. I remember back then, I paid the guy $100. It was a lot of money.
Yeah.
Me working where I was working, I was making a lot of money. I was making good money for that time. So I did have some money with me. Basically, I started my travel times $613. That's the money that I left Romania with. But let's not forget, owning foreign currency back then in Romania, it was a felony.
Yeah.
You go to jail. So there are a lot of details that we're going to skip, but there were, in order to put all this together, there were a lot of thinking, a lot of mind searching in order to find the right ideas, how to go about it, and how to make this work without getting caught.
Yeah.
So we took a taxi, and I paid the guy. I told him what I want, again, through my broken Russian that I knew at that time. I was able to converse with him, and he was a nice guy. He got paid well, of course, but he was nice. He told us what we have to do. He took us to the end of a forest, and he told us, basically, he indicated what we should do and where we should go. We followed his guide, and believe it or not, we crossed the border between Yugoslavia and Italy, and we end up in Trieste. The city name is Trieste. It's a border with Ljubljana on the Yugoslavian border. Once we got there, we were also still very scared. We jumped into the woods. We jumped into trenches for when the cars were driving, because we didn't want to be seen. Even though back then, later on, we find out that was okay. It was not a big deal, but we didn't know.
Yeah.
There were a lot of unknowns that we went through, and we try to figure them out as we go along. So
It's better to be safe than sorry.
of course. So in Trieste, we went again to the train station. We we bought 4 tickets to go to Rome. It was so, and there was some time that we had to wait until the train will come. It just happened that back then it was people that work on the
Train station?
train station. They had a strike, so we couldn't take a train anymore. I went back to the people. They sold me the tickets, and I asked them, "Hey, we want to go to Rome. How can we do that? How can we get there?" And they said, "Well, since trains are not running, we're gonna give you a ticket to a bus station."
Okay.
And they transferred the tickets from the train to a bus station.
Okay.
And we took a bus, and we ended up in Rome. From the bus station, we took another taxi. And we told them we want to go to U.S. Embassy. I remember we got there. This is already 3 days went by. There we were still on the traveling path.
Wow.
We went to the U.S. Embassy in Rome. It was somewhere in the afternoon, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We knock on the door. Some U.S. soldier came to us. Of course, we speak no English. I told them I'm Romanian. I wanna go to U.S. But of course, I was speaking in Romanian language, not in English. The soldier was pretty smart. He said, "Just wait." He went inside. He came back. He opened the gate. He let us in. We went in. They kept us in a room. Within, I believe, 2 hours went by. A guy came, and he spoke perfect Romanian.
Wow.
And he asked us who we are, what are we doing there, what's our plans, where you want to go. We told him we're Romanians, we want to go to U.S. And then he took all our information. We start telling them who we are, We spent another few hours, several hours actually, in the embassy. I remember when we left, it was dark outside.
Were you, at this point, were you still nervous that they might send you back to Romania, or because you had reached Rome, you were more hopeful and like, this is...
Yes.
Yeah.
At this point, we knew that once we reach U.S. Embassy in Rome, from Rome, they will not send us back. So we're thankful to God that we got to that point, and we knew our path will have a different turn.
Yeah.
So it will, I don't know, we just felt more confident that eventually we'll end up going to the U.S. So I want to mention that before I left Romania, I had this prophecy. I went to a group of prayer, and there was a prophecy about me going, that God will be with me. We went to somebody's house. It was a person that, it was a person of prayer, and Mom had a lot of trust in that person. It was a woman, and my mom said, we came because we want to pray, and it didn't give any details. We were just about to go on our knee to pray, and another person came into that location. It was a man. We prayed, and after we finished the prayer, the man said to me, "I want to talk to you. Do you have a minute?" And I said, "Sure. What about?" He said, "Let's just go in the next room, and I want to tell you something." So we did that. I went there and said, "Go, God will be with you." And I asked him, "Go where?" And he told me, "Go to U.S."
Wow.
So I have to say, and that confirmation, and that person not knowing anything about my plans, basically the person that we went through didn't know nothing about my plans. The only person that knew about my plans out of the whole group there was my mom. So we, in our mind, we knew that God is going to protect us. I shared the prophecy with the 3 other guys, and we knew that God is going to protect us and help us achieve our goal.
Wow, that's amazing. God is good, huh?
God is awesome if we put our trust in Him.
Yeah, that's right. So, how did things get resolved at the U.S. Embassy? You said you were there for a number of hours. By the time you left, it was dark.
So basically, I want to mention a very short part of the interview that we had with that Romanian-speaking person.
Mm-hmm.
Through all the questions they had, they asked us where do we work, what we were doing in Romania. And I told them, I told him actually, that through my army time, I was working for the Ministry of Defense, and that I ended up serving even the President of Romania at that time.
Mm-hmm.
He asked me a few questions of the interior of the Minister of Defense about some locations. He gave me a piece of paper, I drew it, and he said to me, which is something again very surprising to me, rest assured, you will go to US.
Wow.
They were very nice. It was, like I said, it was getting dark. They said, you will have to go to a refugee camp. You will have to start your paperwork. They're going to open a file for you. They're going to do your background check. And if everything works out, you will go to US. They told us where we need to go. It was about 50 kilometers from Rome. It was a town called Latina. And Latina, it was the camp of refugee, people from all over Europe that escaped from their, especially from Eastern Europe,
mm-hmm.
from their communist countries. They were trying to look for their freedom. And that's where we used to live for several months. So I was in that camp for 3 months. They start my file, they start my background check, I give them all the information. After 3 months, my file was finished, but we had to wait for the final approval from the US government.
And at what point in this did you finally make contact back to Romania, connect with your mother and your family?
After we end up being in Latina, in the refugee camp, that's where I remember the first contact that I had with my parents. I wrote a postcard. And I said, I salute you from Rome.
Wow.
That's all I wrote. So at that point, they knew. Also, after that, I called my sister. And I told my sister that I'm already in Italy, that I'm safe. And my sister told my mom. My father didn't know about me leaving Romania.
Wow.
I wasn't, my father would not let me leave. In Romania, there is a custom. Usually parents, they choose the youngest son to stay with them or to be cared by the youngest son. It's a custom.
Mm-hmm.
At least in my village, that was the custom.
Mm-hmm.
And my father, we were very close, but I was not as close as I was with my mom. So I knew if I tell him, he's not going to be okay with it. So, therefore, he didn't know.
Wow. So what was your sister's reaction when she heard your voice? I mean,
my sister she was very thankful to God, and she was very happy. And she said, I'm going to tell mom, I'm going to tell dad, I'm going to tell the other brothers and sisters.
The whole village.
The whole village ended up knowing. I remember later on, I find out that it was a big deal in the village that Cornel left and he made it. He was in Italy and he was going to go to US. It was a big deal. Back then, leaving Romania and escaping, it was a really, really big deal. And let's not forget, I was the first guy from the village escaping and making it. Like I said, my brother left earlier, but he left with a different circumstances, a different paperwork and all that. Me, I escaped. So I was the first one.
Wow. So those several months in the refugee camp, what did you do every day? I mean, were you able to get some work and?
Well, the camp, they offer us room and board, but we had no money. So I ended up looking for work. The Italians, in the mornings, they will come to the refugee camp gate and pick people for work. You work for daily, or you work, by day or by hour, on a different chores, on a different type of work. So I end up, I dug ditches for gas lines. I picked up strawberry. I picked up onions from the field. I picked up watermelons. So I did whatever work was needed. I work in construction. I was carrying cement with with two buckets. So I did all kinds of heavy work, heavy lifting, but I was okay with it. We were not paid very much, but it was something better than nothing. So that's what I did for 3 months. After 3 months, we were transferred to Rome. There was a hotel that room and board refugee like myself, they were waiting to leave Italy and go to wherever their destination will be. Mm-hmm. And I did that for another 3 months in Rome. But also, being in Rome, I work as a waiter. Let's not forget, I turned 22 years old, and I was in camp in Latina. And I picked up Italian in about 4 months. Wow. I spoke pretty decent Italian. I can still speak now, not as good, but I still speak a little bit of Italian now.
Wow.
So I find a job in Rome. I work as a waiter, and then I end up working as a waiter right in the hotel where I was living.
Wow. And how many months were you in Rome?
For 3 months, for 3 more months.
Okay.
So I was basically, I left Italy on the 20th of November, 1985.
Wow.
Now, let me correct myself. On the 19th, because on the 20th, I believe I was already in Chicago. On the 20th of November, I was already in Chicago.
And did you have a choice where you would land?
So just to go back a little bit, having a brother in the U.S., he was also getting in contact with the agency. There was agency did our for all 4 of us, our files, mm-hmm. our background, whatever. All this happened in Chicago. Back then, when my brother came, he went and lived in Chicago. So we were leaving Rome, but our destination was Chicago. So we end up landing in Chicago. 20th of November, it's a very cold month in Chicago. I remember there was a lot of snow. It was very cold outside. So that didn't bother me. It was a very good reunion with my brother, with his family. We are very happy that now we can say we were free. Mm-hmm. We are finally ending up to the final destination, U.S. So the funny thing is that after we got to Chicago, it was something that I don't necessarily like the weather. And my first impression, it was not the greatest. I was expecting something different. I was seeing America.
California, maybe.
I was seeing America through the movies.
Yeah.
And definitely not Chicago.
Yeah.
So pretty soon after that, I decided that I don't want to stay there. My brother he was already in a talks, in a conversation with another Romanian guy from Cluj. They was already living in Seattle. And my brother, after I end up arriving to Chicago, he was talking, he said, I don't know if you like it here, but we're thinking of moving to Seattle. So it just happened that another guy, Romanian guy, he was a truck driver. And he had a trip or load from Chicago to Seattle. And I asked him, hey, why don't I come with you? And the guy said, sure. The only thing is, every time when I have to put the chains on the 18-wheeler, that's your job. So that's how I pay my first trip. I help him put chains on the 18-wheeler from Chicago to Seattle.
It was worth it.
It was definitely worth it. So I end up here. I met a guy named Nico Mureșan. Very nice guy. He let me stay with him for 2 weeks. And this time, my brother and his family drove from Chicago to Seattle. I end up, my brother came. We were looking for rent. We found a house. We rented the house. We all lived together.
So what were your first few years like here in the U.S. as an immigrant? The struggle, trying to find work, learning the language, surviving. What was that like for you?
So after we came to Seattle, I was looking for work. I remember one of my first place of work was Safeway. I was starting at 2 o'clock in the morning. I was wrapping flowers and making cardboard boxes. I did that for several months. I was getting paid $2.36 an hour. Back then, minimum wage was $2 an hour.
Wow.
It was a tough life, but I was happy that I had the opportunity to be here in the U.S. and to be free.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard. I have to say, it was very hard. In the first months after I arrived to U.S., being in Seattle, I was living in South Seattle with my brother and his family. I was missing my home country. I remember there were times that I was crying on the street. I was desperate. The first impression about U.S. they were not great. It was tough. I was missing my country. I was missing my family, and then I was missing my country. However, it was something that I dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
I stayed in Seattle for 9 months. After 9 months, I was looking for the Romanian community. Seattle at that time, it didn't have very many Romanians. So I decided to go back to Chicago. Chicago, it was a big community. So after 9 months of living in Seattle, I decided to move back to Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
So during those 9 months, I live here in Seattle. I save enough money to buy a car. My first car was 1979 Chevy Nova muscle car.
No.
Yeah. I remember the car, and I'll probably remember the car for the rest of my life.
Maybe one day you'll get the same one.
Yeah, maybe.
I did want to ask a question. I know you were working when you were back in Rome in the refugee camp.
Yes.
But how much money did you actually come to the U.S. with, total, to start a new life?
I came in the U.S. with one suitcase and $250 in my pocket.
Wow.
Right after I came here, my brother, Gligor, owed somebody $200 in Chicago, a guy named Petru. And I ended up paying my brother that.
Wow.
So I started my life with $50 in my pocket.
So you're back in Chicago. What did you decide to do I mean, you're at this point 23. You're starting a new life.
I was not even 23 yet.
Okay.
So going back to Chicago, I found a job. I work as a waiter for Pizza Hut. The wage was $2.01.
$2.01.
Yes, $2.01. The minimum wage again was $2 an hour at that time. But let's not forget, having a bigger Romanian community, I found another job right away. So during the day, I was painting apartments. And at nighttime, I was working for Pizza Hut. I did that, but also being in Chicago, I started to, a light went on in my mind. The cars are rusted because in Chicago it has a lot of big winters, and they throw salt on the streets.
Yeah.
And a lot of cars are rusted. Me living in Seattle before, and Seattle not having rusted cars, a light went in my mind. Why don't I bring cars from Seattle and sell them in Chicago? So I did that 6 times. I brought in 6 cars. I ended up with a profit of $10,000. Back then, $10,000 was a lot of money.
Wow.
So my mind of entrepreneur kicked in. After a few months working in Chicago and working with this group of Romanians, painting apartments, somehow I don't know, I catch attention to the guy that I was working for, and I asked him, is it possible for me to work alone and pay me individually? And the guy asked me, what do you want to do? I said, I just want to open my own business. I will work for you. I will do the same thing, but just do it under my own company. And the guy said, sure, no problem. He said, I'll pay you $250 for each apartment you paint and clean to be ready for rent. And that's how I opened my first business. The name of the business was Cornel Decoration Company. So I did that. So let's not forget, my English was very bad. Even now it's not the best, but still.
I think you're doing just fine.
So I was doing that I did that for about 2 years. After 2 years, I decided to come back and be with my brother and move back to Seattle. By that time, I was already having some money saved. I was having a van. Back then, having a car was a big deal. I was having a van full of tools for construction. So I decided to come back to Seattle. So I drove from Chicago to Seattle. I came here very shortly after I landed back in Seattle. I opened another business. I opened a company called Tile and Marble Quality Service. I had a company until not too long ago, when I let it go. So I opened the company installing tiles and selling tiles. Pretty soon after that, I opened my own store. I had a store and I opened it somewhere in 1990, I believe. I moved back in 1988. I moved back from Chicago to Seattle. And in 1993, I sold the store. And after I sold the store, I opened Cornel's Quality Construction. And I had a company even now.
Wow.
Which my son Michael it's managing at this point. So I started building new homes. I started remodeling homes. Then I moved to commercial properties. I ended up building commercial buildings. So my business life grew quite a bit. Mm-hmm. I was working a lot. Let's not forget that in 1990, I went back home. Let me go back a little bit. In 1989, I brought in my mom and my dad came to visit me. This was before the before the revolution or before they killed the former president.
Mm-hmm.
When revolution was happening, my parents were here in the U.S.
Oh, okay.
I remember my mom and my dad, they end up getting a green card. So they were all legal to come to the U.S. and stay here. My mom, when she came to the U.S., to America, she brought in a picture with her. She brought in a picture of my wife. My wife being best friend of my younger sister, Christina. Mm-hmm. And she was in my house, in our house, basically, all the time. So I saw her, and of course, I remember her. I didn't have a relationship with her, but my mom said, "This is a very good girl. You should get married." And we went back, 1990, we went back home with my parents. We went to church in Somașurețe, in my village. I saw Rodica. After I saw her, somehow I found out from my sister what her schedule was. I knew she was going to work. She was working night times. Going home in 1990, I bought a car from Germany and I drove to Romania. I asked my sister about Rodica's schedule, which I find out. So I went, and when she was supposed to take a bus to go to Cluj to go to work, I went to the bus station with my car at that point, and I said, "Do you mind? I'll take you to work." And that's where our relationship started. After that, I saw her every single day, and within 2 weeks, we got engaged.
Wow. When you know, you know.
And when you feel it, you feel it.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Rodica, we end up getting married. We had a wedding November. The same year, we had a wedding in Romania. And in 1991, 5th of February, she came to U.S. We started our life together. We end up having 3 beautiful kids, 3 boys, David, Michael, and Robert. It was hard. However, with God and through His help and grace, we were able to be where we are today. We worked a lot. My wife helped me a lot in business. Also, she helped with raising the children. And today, we are a blessed family. We have 3 beautiful boys that we are proud of. And we pray to God that each one is going to find his own way in life and have a blessed life the way they want to create it for themselves. And then also live a life that it has meaning for them, for their family, and for the people around them, and the community as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And now you have a grandson too.
Yes, we have a grandson from Michael, Liam, which is 15 months now. We are so blessed to have him in our life, and I have to say, being a grandparent is definitely better than being a parent.
I've heard.
It's
because you get to give them back.
Exactly. It's you take them where you want to play with them, when you want to enjoy them, and when you get tired, you give them back. You said, "It's yours. Please take care of it."
Yeah.
So anyway, we are blessed. We are blessed, and we pray to God that David and Robert will get married, and they're gonna give us more grandchildren, and life will be fulfilled this way.
You also you wrote a book, and would you mind sharing a little bit about it? You just gifted this to me, and I'm really excited to read it. And I know this shares part of your story, but would you mind sharing all that entails?
Yes, it's been in my mind to write a book. I started, 15 years ago. I wrote 12 chapters at one point, and then I scrap it. And lately, I start all over again. Maybe I saw things a little bit different. So the first part of the book, it says a little bit about my biography. Also, the second part shows part of my thoughts about the world that we live in, and also my political aspiration, what I want to do from now on in my life. The Price of Freedom, it's a book that tells a little bit about my story, how I escaped Romania, how I came here, how I raised my family, and also how much I was involved in the community and what I want to do from now on. So the next thing that I want to do is, due to the fact that through the years, I had a lot of Romanians that worked for me. Of course, there were other different, people from Moldova. Also, it's Romania. A lot of Americans work for me. A lot of Mexicans work for me. A lot of Ukrainians, Russians. So through the years, I dealt with so many different people. I like to think that I have a good relationship with the people that work for me. I like to think that I was a good boss for them. So as time move on, we get to the point in our life that everybody is thinking of retirement. I thought about the same thing. I thought when I'm going to hit 60, I'm going to retire, and I'm either going to sell the company or give it to one of my sons that if they want to run it. And for me, just retired. I have to say that getting close to that 60, I was approached by other Romanians from the community saying that, Cornel, you're a person that you have something to give back. You've been through so many things in life. Why don't you do something more and make the next step in your life and get involved? Get involved in the life of Romanians that live in diaspora. Especially in my case, will be America. I thought about it. I prayed about it. And in February 2022, we were invited in Bucharest. It's a conservator conference. We accepted the invitation, and I took my wife, and we flew to Romania. We went through this conference, and we heard people talking. We heard people cry for help, or people that were wishing for a change. And we decided at that time to get involved. Short after that, I was appointed as a president for Alliance for Unified Romanians in U.S. And ever since then, I decided to get more involved in the life of Romanians living abroad, living in diaspora. Right now, we have an estimation of about 8 million people of Romanians that live outside of Romanian borders.
Wow.
Those people can be represented in the Romanian parliament through 2 senators and 4 deputies. With God's help, I decided to run for a Senate in the Romanian parliament in 2024, representing Romanian that live outside of Romanian borders, which is US, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and all Europe. We have a lot of Romanians that they left. How they left? Some of them, they left like I did, escape. A lot of Romanians, they came legally, especially after 1989. A lot of Romanians, they moved to Europe. They have families there, they have a place of work there, they have homes there. But those Romanians, they are linked to Romania in one way or another.
Yeah.
We all have families, extended families or close families. They still live in Romania. Myself, I only have a sister here. I had a brother that he passed away. But other than that, everybody else is back home. Interesting, they don't want to move to US. They don't want to leave Romania. One thing that I want to mention is some Romanians are so attached to Romania that, for example, I met a lot of Romanians that they said, when I get retired, when I were retired, I'm going to go and spend some of my life in Romania. So what kind of Romania do we want to find? Or what kind of Romania do we want to live in when we go there? So yes, this is why I decided to run for the Romanian parliament, representing all the Romanians living abroad.
Wow.
And with God's help, hopefully I will get there, and I want to help. All my other brothers and sisters that live in Romania, they don't want to leave. They want to live there. They want to stay there. They love their country. They're happy where they are, and they want to live their life there. A lot of Romanians, they left Romania. When they left, part of their heart was left there. Part of my heart was left there. I love Romania for who I am, and I love America for what I have. So Romania is the country that I had my childhood, I went to school, and I became who I am today. Yes, I am what I am today because I live in the US, but Romania was the country that raised me and guided me and implanted in me all these qualities that I have. I want to go back in Romania and give. I don't want to go there to take. I'm not going there for the money. What I'm doing, the next chapter in my life, I'm not doing it for the money. Financially, I am blessed in US. So I don't need to do it for the money. I'm doing it for the people. I'm doing it for the community. I want to go back and I want to give back what God put in me, my experience and my knowledge and everything that I'm able to give back. I am willing and ready to do it.
Wow. Well, we'll be praying for you and for your upcoming election, and we look forward to hearing about all that. As we get near the end here, I think it's also important to address the current political climate in the U.S. You know, we live in very interesting and divisive times. What are your thoughts on freedom, having gone through what you've gone through? And do you have any words of encouragement to my generation, the generation after me, just about the blessing it is to live here? And so yeah, if you want to share about that.
We are so blessed to live in U.S. I mean, we have, I think I can say we have a better life than anybody else in this world. We are so blessed. However, the way the life is going down and the directions of the politics that is going in U.S., it's not good. The value of family, the value of faith are affects the decisions that we make every single day. We have more than anybody else living in the U.S. For me, going back is going to be a sacrifice. It's going to be a price. I pay a price when I left Romania to be free. I pay a price going through life in the new country, learning the language, learning the customs, learning the way of life in the U.S. I paid it, and I am what I am today. And I'm willing to pay another price, going back and helping people that needs help. Giving back what this beautiful country give me. I became a businessman in the U.S. And I became a businessman of success. And I want to give some of that back to my old country, because that's where my life started. If somebody wants to go back to Romania, if somebody wants to retire to Romania, I want them to find a good place to go, a beautiful place. Romania, it is a beautiful place, but a beautiful place with the right laws, with the right customs, with the right way of life, with the right everyday things that you could do, including business, including representing Romania on the worldwide, anywhere you go. Romania has a lot of things, a lot of beautiful things. I'm sure that in the years to come, a lot of U.S. citizens, a lot of Americans will go to visit Romania, and they will be impressed what they're going to see. But I want also for them to have services that are going to be at the American level. I want them to go there and enjoy their time being there. There are a lot of areas that needs to be improved. There are a lot of decisions that needs to be made. There are a lot of investments that are going to have to be made in Romania to bring Romania at the value that Romania can be. Right now, U.S. it's opening the biggest military army station in Europe. They're opening it in Romania. A lot of Americans from now on, they're going to hear about Romania. Because they're going to have up to 30,000 U.S. soldiers in Romania.
Wow.
They'll have a big impact. Romania is a strategic military partner with the U.S. From now on, I think they're going to build on that more and more. And Romania is going to be well known in the U.S., even though right now we have a fair amount of Romanians that live in the U.S.
Oh, yeah.
All over the United States, we probably have somewhere around 1.5 million. So it's a big number. But these people, they will need to be represented at the government level. And that's, with God's help, that's what I plan to do. For example, getting your passport renewed, getting paperwork for the properties. A lot of people that live in the U.S., they still own properties in Romania. Going through the consulates to resolve all kinds of issues. It's a pretty hard system. It's not very friendly, but that can be improved. And that's where somebody like me comes in. Again, my goal is to live in the U.S. My family is here, but I will have to travel a lot, going all over the world, but going a lot in Romania.
That's amazing. If you do get elected, what are some of your goals, your specific goals that you want to see? You mentioned some services and to the level of the West and better relationships with the West. But what other things specifically would you like to see implemented during your term?
Well, like you said, services will be probably number one. Second will be, God willing, I'll end up being a senator. I like to be part of the negotiation between the Romanian government and U.S. I want to represent Romania at the U.S. level to U.S. government. We need people that love Romania, represent Romania at the highest level possible. There will be so many things that will have to be brought up to show that Romania can be a very strong strategic partner to U.S. at the military level and also at the economic level. There will be a lot of departments or a lot of resources that Romania has that will probably need U.S. investments. Will need the American companies to invest in Romania in order to flourish the values or bring up the values that Romania has.
Yeah.
And U.S. and the U.S. companies, they are in position to do that. But all that will need to be going through so many different channels that a Romanian politician could facilitate in order to make those happen. So I don't think it's wise for me to go into specific details, but on the broad level, I think those are the things that I wanna help in.
That's amazing. As someone that was born there, but enjoys visiting, I totally agree. There's so many things that could be brought up to the West levels that would just encourage more people to go back.
Right.
So I'm really excited for you. I pray and believe that God's timing and everything, and so we wish you the best.
Thank you. One thing is that I also want to mention is, one thing that I want to do is, with God's help. For example, I just came from Austria last week. I met with big communities of Romanians, and a lot of the younger generation. Romanians had a theory in their mind, not to, especially Christians, not to get involved in politics. I want to emphasize that now things are different. I want to encourage Christians to get involved in politics. We like it or not, the politics dictates our life. Through the laws, to all the amendments that are given, we have to obey it and live it in our life. So that's why Christians, the more Christians we can get, especially the younger generation, to get involved, the better. I think by doing what I'm doing, I awaken something in their heart, in their mind, that's something that they should do for the good of community and for the good of the Romanians that live abroad.
Yeah, that's great. Cornel, again, we just want to say thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for encouraging so many people with your journey and now wanting to give back. And so we really do wish you the best in this next chapter of your life. If you want to follow Cornel and his journey, we'll post all of his social platforms and the links when we post this episode. If you would like to get a copy of his book, please send us a message and we'll reach out and get you a copy of that. But really, thank you, listener. Thank you for following along and supporting us. Please like and subscribe and share. And thank you again. This is Pursuit of Freedom. Thank you.